Thank you very much, Bart. I will do a presentation, an overview of how Sweden is coping with weather information and how we are distributing it. I was looking at deployment guidelines for weather information, and I saw it was a lot of examples from different countries in that part. Unfortunately, I didn't have a final version, so it was not a lot of Datex dissemination of the weather data in that samples I saw, and I also saw that the Swedish samples was very, very short. But I will make a new download and see what's in it. Well, if you look at the origin of the weather data, it's from this central system that's in Swedish called VVIS, and it's a road weather information system. It's been around for a long time. I think it started at 1995, something like that. And this is really the core business of the Transport Administration. It's to keep track of the road weather data and make sure that you can travel on these roads without any problem. So the central system, there's the management in the system, where you do the configuration of detectors you have, the placement, where they're located, the kind of equipment they have, how they are connected to the central system, and how often they should be scheduled to fetch the information. The system also do the collecting, dial-up. We have a lot of copper wires still around for this detector, the weather stations. So they do the dial-up retries if it needed, and handle all this gathering of information. And also keep the historical data for if you want to analyze this later. And then it's doing some publishing. The publishing is only for the contractors that we have. The contractors, this is target against plowing mainly. Keep the roads clear in the winter time. Do the plowing and have salt on the roads if it's needed. So what you can find here, when the contractors go in this special website, they can find radar images. They can find the forecast that's done. They can find the dew points. The dew points is where, if this temperature goes below the dew point, it's very likely that there will be frost on the road. And also they have warnings here. And the warnings are based on the dew point and the forecasts, and that's calculated. So if they get a warning, they should be out on the road and do some salting or be prepared to do some plowing. And then we have the weather stations. As you can see, there's a lot of weather stations on the map. It's very dense in the south, not that much dense in the north. That is due to there's more traffic in the south. It's not that much people living in the north, and not that much roads in the north. Even though there's a lot more snow in the north than in the south. We have about 800 stations, weather stations, in this country. It's the area of Sweden is pretty large, so it's not that they're pretty far sometimes. It's pretty long distance between some of the weather stations. And they're put on strategic spots along the road network. And then we have an update for them. It's a traditional 30 minutes. And it's due to mostly communication costs and stuff like that. You can't have this amount of weather station with this old technology that some are equipped with in a more often way without too much cost involved. But we have replacing the stations with another communication channels like GPRS or 3G or something like that, wireless. And then we are looking for increasing the schedule to every 10 minutes instead. And as I said, this is mainly for the wintertime maintenance. So in the summertime, we cut some of these stations off, so it's just about half it's running in the summertime. So this is the weather station. We are depending a lot on the Vaisala detectors, Finnish friends delivering. This was for the wind, temperatures. We had a temperature in the air. We are measuring temperature at the road surface, and this is done with the sensors in the road. We had the wind measuring. We had the precipitation type and volume, and you can see there's a precipitation optic eye that looks what's coming through in this sensor, and also the humidity. Half of these weather stations are equipped with the camera, and the image that you see from one of the cameras in the north was taken just a week ago. So still a lot of snow up there, but this time no snow on the road. And we are planning in 2 years to have all the weather stations have a camera and delivering images. The cameras are getting cheaper, and if we get better communication, it's feasible to do this. The use of weather data, as you can see up on the right side, we are publishing this kind of maps. You see there, with the forecast of the road conditions. And at this image I took from the website, there's no problem at this time of year, actually. They are used, as I said before, by the winter maintenance. The team's traffic management centers are looking pretty close on this weather data as well. And we also publish them to external clients via Datex II. So what are the subscribers we have for this information? Well, most of the Datex subscribers we have are also interested in the weather, and they're all receiving the weather information. We have about 100 plus subscribers now for Datex information. Some of them are making some kind of weather services. We have our own website that's called Läget I trafiken, that's in English, current traffic situation, which, as we are transport administration, covers both the roads and the railroads. And this site gets the information from the weather information via Datex II. And they are publishing with the website and applications in the smartphones. We're also looking at exchange with our Norwegian friends, and there's been some trials. It's not in production yet, but will happen soon, we think. And this is also one way of this open type data, open government, that you should publish the data you have as a government. So this is one way to do it. So what are we delivering? What kind of information are we delivering? We are delivering the measure points with the measurement publication. We are delivering metadata about the weather stations. We do it with push and pull, and we do it every 30 minutes. If we want to publish hazards like strong winds, black ice, or whatever. It's done with the traffic information, but it's done manually from the traffic management center. Black ice should not be part of this, should not be published, because if the contractors do their job, there won't be any black ice, because they get a warning, then can go out, put salt on the road, so there shouldn't be any problem. But sometimes might be anyway. But then you have the winds. If you have strong winds around the bridges, they go out and warn for this with this traffic information, with the situation publication. And that as well is same as the other situation publications that we have, so it's both push and pull. And I think it's here that you find any mapping between the ITS directive and this weather data, mostly because it's safety-related information. And this is done with manual entries with traffic management center, from the traffic management center. So this is the data we are publishing. Wind speed, maximum wind speed, direction, temperature in the air and at the road surface, the type of precipitation, the intensity, and also the humidity. The images that are shown there are from the website. And that image, upper one, is showing the wind speeds and the direction. The lower one, like there, is showing the air temperature and the road temperature. And it seems to be very warm at the roads, but supposedly I think the sun is shining, so that's why. We also deliver metadata services. We have the naming of these detectors. We have the coordinates, location, and also what kind of measurements they are making. All of these detectors, the weather stations, are not having all the equipment. So we have this, you can look at this metadata about the stations and you find what kind of equipment they have and what kind of measurement they will give you. By doing this, having this stream of weather data through Datex II, the weather guys don't have to bother about the external clients. They used to have some external clients where they provided their information to, like Swedish broadcasting. This is done by Datex II now. They don't have to bother about monitoring that the transmissions goes well, or bother about agreements they have with the external clients. This is done totally by the Datex node now, and they can just skip that and do something better with their time. So this is a great advantage to have this all channeled through the Datex II environment. Well, as I said, from the deployment guidelines was a lot of examples from different countries, so there should be a lot of requirements for weather data. But we have a work item in the work in Datex group about road weather data. It's not really clear the priorities, if they're high enough to do a lot of work in this. We have a lot of other work to do, and as we mentioned before, the funding is somewhat restricted. But anyway, new requirements should anyway be forward, I think. For we don't know if this funding is going to solve, and if you get more money from the Commission, it might be worth doing something of this, and it might be worth doing it anyway. It depends on how much work it's involved and what the benefits are. So we created a piece in the Datex II website where you can go in and post your requirements if you have. And then we have to look at this in the further work we are doing in Datex II. Well, that was most of this presentation. So are there any questions?
I have rather a comment or reference to the service you provide. I got the chance to consume Datex data from your sources, and it was like a heaven for consumer. Really pragmatic, functional, with changes from one version to the other one, with half a year or even longer, concurrently providing data in 2 versions, excellent support in advance, and being informed in advance about any planned downtime, or Mr. Obama being in Sweden, so no traffic information that day. Really beautiful service. I think everybody could learn, and all the consumers would be much happier.
Well, what a way to end your presentation, Bo. Thank you. Mr. Kaltwasser.
Try without the mic. And you said the application you have in mind, and the reason why you give the data away is all sorts of services. You said that you deal with travel information, but you also deal with winter maintenance. And we've had a similar project between Luxembourg and Germany, where we also created a Datex profile exchange that only focusing on winter maintenance. And the experience we made there was that we needed a much deeper modeling of the actual sensor data, because the intention of receiving the data was not to visualize it, but to include it in a weather model. Yeah, so at the end of the day, the purpose of the exchange was the cross-border extension of the weather model that was used to predict the weather development in order to organize ridding and snowplow services and so on. And we had the feeling that the current Datex model on weather-related sensors is not sufficient to do that. This is at least what the weather model experts told us. And this project is finished now, and it kind of got lost somehow a bit in the struggles with the 10T funding no more being available and so on. But I wonder on whether you run into that issue as well, and whether that is something you will take up in the EIP workout, because we suggest that. I think it's a different perspective on the same exchange.
We don't know if we're going to take that up in the EIP. I don't know if we have funding for it, really. If there's a funding for doing that work compared to other things we have to do. But I see the problem, and I think when we have the exchange with Norway, it's about a similar approach, because the weather is always usually comes from the west. That's the same in your approach here. So the more information you have from detectors at the west, the better it should be. But there are no concrete plans for this at the moment.
It's an interesting challenge. It's on the borders of the scope of Datex II, of course, and we've seen this before, that we have quite, although some might doubt about that, but we have quite a mature methodology and quite a mature information model. And what we see is that in adjoining domains, they can use this methodology and with extensions of the model we have, because location referencing is a problem everywhere. It is a very helpful tool for them to operate their information requirements. We will see this more often, is my assumption, and I wish the SG a lot of wisdom in setting priorities on resource allocation in these cases.